All right, welcome back. We are talking about the border issue and what it means to the sheriffs across the state of Arizona on two fronts. Joining us is the Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos. Sheriff, thanks for doing this.
Certainly.
Let's start with locally here in the state of Arizona. State of Arizona working on something called the Arizona ICE Act that will require the 287G agreements with all sheriff's departments in the state. Do you think this is a valuable piece? Do you think this is an impediment? What do you think of this idea?
I have no clue because this is the first I've heard of this act. So I'd have to study it and that and see what the intent behind it is. I know we've done 287Gs in the past. I'm sure there were some concerns about that. Right now, we work closely with all of our federal partners. We have people assigned to the FBI, to the DEA, to Customs. They have people assigned here as well. So I'm not quite sure what the act is for, its design purpose, so I'll wait to see that.
So on the federal level, you know, the importance of the border issue to the new administration coming in. They've talking about border enforcement. Now we've heard 1,500 troops, active duty military on the southern border. We don't know how many will be in Arizona. Do you think this will be an asset to help local law enforcement? Is this something that you are in favor of seeing happen?
Well, you know, I think that whatever the administration sees or views as securing the border is important. And I allow them to deal with that. That's not a concern of my agency or this county sheriff. I have other issues. You know, I think you started off saying you've been trying to talk to sheriffs across the state. I think everybody knows pretty clearly that we all have different challenges in front of us. Cochise County, for example, Sheriff Daniels has his challenges, which are clearly different than the challenges I face. And so for my county, I would speak real clear that the border issue, and I know that there's been a lot of political rhetoric behind a lot of this stuff, but I would just say simply this. My position has been my position, this position, since before Biden was here. I've always believed that the border, somewhere I've lived my entire life, is a federal issue and that the federal government needs to deal with that. Don't throw it off on the counties or any local agency for that matter. We have our challenges. We receive county taxpayer dollars to deal with county law enforcement matters. The federal government, Border Patrol, ICE, others, HSI, they receive federal tax dollars to deal with their issues. I'm in constant communication with the leadership here in the Tucson sector. I have been for a number of years. John Modlin, who's now recently left and has been recently replaced, good men and women, their team, they have a job to do. It's not an easy job, but I too have a job to do. We both have the same challenges when it comes to our resources and our budgets and our staffing levels and all those issues. But clearly, we always have and will continue to work closely with our brethren in any law enforcement capacity.
Yeah, and I would guess, and it would seem to me that what would help your agency from a federal level is the securing of the border is not as much just the people that are crossing the border, but the fentanyl trafficking that's coming through Arizona and the crime that it brings with us. The harm to human life is one thing, but the crime that it brings with us, if they were able to control that a little bit more, wouldn't that ease some of the pressure on your agency with the crimes that come along with fentanyl trafficking?
Well, yeah, I think, and again, like I said, I've not seen any of the plans laid out by the President-elect Trump or President Trump now. So I don't know exactly what his thoughts are for the use of the military. I'll let the federal government deal with that. My personal, well, first of all, before we get into anything personal from me, my understanding, and I think Customs and our ICE would tell you the same, that 20, 30 years ago, I worked narcotics. Trafficking drugs across that border was done with backpacks and mules, literally trains of people with 100-pound backpacks of marijuana on their backs. Today's trafficking isn't that way. Where we're seeing most of that, probably the greatest, by far 90% or better of our fentanyl is coming right through the ports of entry. So the ports of entry in Pima County are
Yeah.
very limited. We have Sassabee, which is open only so many hours of the day, handled through ICE and Border Patrol, and Lukeville, which is another port of entry to our west. So
What?
that's up to them being
Yeah.
federal government to figure out how to control those issues. You know,
Yeah, it's
crime though along my border, we receive about 130,000 calls, 140,000 calls a year, and less than 0.001% of those calls are on our border.
Sheriff, we appreciate the perspective. We've been talking to sheriffs across the state, and yours is always an important one to have, so we appreciate it today.
Not a problem, sir.
We'll be right back.